Hello, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys. You are now entering Season 2 of the Swan Hockey Podcast. Swan Hockey is flying around the junior hockey world one episode at a time. You'll experience things dreams are made of, as well as things of terrible nightmares. Strap in, hold on, and enjoy the ride. And now, Swan Hockey.
Welcome back to another episode, everyone. Happy to have you here with Bill Underwood. Bill, Pandora's box has been opened. College hockey. We obviously have seen major junior players allowed to play college hockey now. Now we're going a step further. We have professional hockey players going back and playing NCAA. What do you think? Fan or not a fan?
Well, I think it's something that was going to be inevitable. It's already been there in the Canadian colleges, and it's something that you had other sports. In all honesty, there have been guys that played in Europe that have already pretty much been professionals, and in other sports you have it happen. The basketball player that originated this, so it's something that's inevitable, and it's something that you look at it from a few standpoints, I think, and it's something that in the end, it's not going to impact a lot of players for a whole variety of reasons, but it's something that's there, and it's it's going to be good for some players, but it certainly has changed the game. Just like the transfer portal has, and there've been a lot of changes.
Yeah. Now, this is from what I'm hearing, or at least what I'm led to believe, this is just for NCAA Division I right now, right? Because God forbid the whole NCAA do everything all at once and make it simple. We got to make it complicated along the way, just like everything else. Like, it's just for Division I NCAA right now, right? Because even with the whole CHL thing, it was just Division I for a while, then Division III followed suit. But in terms of the pro players going back and playing in the NCAA, is it just Division I right now?
To my knowledge, yeah. But however, it's always something that could be opened up. It's very ill-defined right now is what it is. It has to do with going through eligibility committees and see if you have eligibility. So I don't know if there's anything actually closed in Division III. It wasn't voted in by Division I Council. It's just something that's come in with, as to my knowledge, it's something that's come in as basically going through the eligibility people in NCAA, and it's something that. In the end, remember, Division I sports and Division III, there is a big difference. So different rules, to a degree, make sense. And how much Division III allowing guys to play is going to have an impact. I really don't see guys going to play Division III, out of pro or out of major junior hockey. It's not really how these guys are wired. And remember, they're not going to play Division I college. They'll probably play Canadian college. And a lot of these guys honestly don't really know Division III exists for all intents and purposes. It's just not in their universe.
I could definitely see the amount of players potentially going Division III or wanting to go Division III from these levels that we just spoke about. I could definitely see that being, much, much less, maybe even few and far between. And maybe few and far between is the best way to describe it, or best way to say it.
It's a very odd special case, and I don't really see it happening because it's and also the way Division III colleges operate. Remember, there are no scholarships. There's financial aid, and generally academics, at the better schools, they don't bend as much for academics as some schools. Other schools they do, but I think. There's a myriad of issues about guys going D3.
Yeah. Because there's no academic scholarship. So, again, is a pro player going to...
Athletic scholarship, there's academic scholarships. No athletic scholarships.
Oh, did I say academic? Sorry, I meant... my brain was wandering there for the last 30 seconds. So you're saying would there be no athletic scholarships for Division III, right? Is a pro player going to go from getting paid to going to pay for school? Chances are that doesn't sound too appealing to too many people. Now has it been confirmed, or have you heard, is the box just open? Can a guy go from the National Hockey League and go back and play NCAA Division I? We've seen it in U Sports, right? We've had NHL players, at least one, go play NHL and then go play U Sports, correct? Right? Is this box just completely open now? Have you heard anything on that? I have not heard any kind of yes or no for that yet?
No, but I've heard probably no, because sort of one of the standards is what you've been compensated worth as much as a college education and board. Well, these days minimum wage in NHL is worth more than college educations in a lot of cases. So in the end, I think that the general standard, I don't think it really, to my knowledge, and I don't think it really has been applied to National Hockey League players. It's minor league hockey players.
Okay. And what are you hearing is the actual, I heard a number of like 60,000 or something, that if you've made $60,000 or less playing minor league pro hockey, you're able to come back and play NCAA Division I. Is that what you're hearing too?
I haven't heard an exact dollar and cents, but I heard one measuring stick might be if your compensation package exceeds what it would be for a college education at an institution, and room and board there. If it exceeds that, costs of education and whatnot, then you're suddenly a pro. But if you're making less than that, you're not a pro. And remember, these days, the way colleges cost generally, you're probably talking 60,000 would probably be a point necessarily be realistic. It might even be 100,000, or less. It might be something. Because colleges are expensive, although some are not. You go to some state schools, it's considerably less. So what number they're going to put on, that's a fair question.
Yeah.
And I do think there will be some sort of standard.
Yeah. And that $60,000 number, that was a very, very general, hey, this is, it was a conversation I had with somebody. I was like, hey, this is what I heard. Like, it didn't seem like that there was too much weight behind it or too much certainty, behind it. It's just, again, this is all brand new to, so many people. Pretty much everybody. And, it's just interesting. I mean, how do you think it's going to affect, the player pool or junior hockey, or, realistically, how many players you think will come back? I mean, I think, I don't think it's going to be a ton, but I think it's probably going to be more than a handful. I mean, we'll probably, what do you think that number is?
I think extremely few, because think about professional hockey. What percentage of players already have been to college? So they're already done with college. A rather significant percentage of ECHL, AHL, or ex-college players. So X them out right there. Then you got a lot of Europeans who haven't been to school, have no intention of going to school. This isn't even their thought process. So you can X out a lot of Europeans. Then you have some guys who are just academically eligible. Either they're not good, they weren't good students, or they haven't fulfilled NCAA rules on courses that you have to have taken in order to be eligible for college hockey.
So do you think we could see 10 a year? This year or next year? I think this number will fizzle out too. I think we're going to come in strong. And then I think once everything, we go through a couple cycles, few years of, the new structure, the new path, or whatever you want to call it. I think right now the guys that are going back are the guys that are like, oh shit, if this rule would have been different 3 years ago, I would have done something different. I think those are the guys we're seeing go back, right? Once this cycles out and the new mentality comes up through the chain and by the time they're, in pro, I think to your point, you're going to have most of them will probably, the ones that want to go to college will probably have already been there. Maybe at least a majority. So I think we're going to come in hot for this. And then I think we're going to start to see it, kind of dip down and kind of stay down in a few years. But like over the next year, 2, maybe 3, what do you think a realistic number? You think we see 10 guys a year leave and go to school?
It's hard to put a number on it. I don't think you see very many.
Do you think 10's an unrealistic number?
It could be too many. It may be realistic. It may be a little bit light. It'll be a very rare kid. Because most of these guys, remember, also once you turn pro, most of these guys are pretty determined to give it a shot and play pro. And now if you're a major junior player, you're probably going right to college anyway. You're not going to go play ECHL for a year. You might have some guys who'll do that and say, oops, I goofed. But, I think it's going to, I have a hard time seeing a flood of players doing this. And again, you remember there are academic standards, not just in terms of grade point average, but again, you have to have had X number of courses by 21 years of age. You have to have been matriculated at certain points, and if you don't fit those requirements, you're not eligible. So a lot of these guys won't be eligible. They won't have jumped through those hoops, and some guys have made too much money. I'm sure. If you're an American Hockey League player, you're probably making too much money, because American Hockey League these days, if 60,000 is it, you're got a lot. It's a huge American Hockey League. You pretty much can X them out. You're not going to be having AHL players there, and except for tryout type guys. And as far as ECHL players go, okay, pretty much basically all of them are eligible from a financial standpoint, but how many will actually do it? And again, you figure the percentage of college players at ECHL is not small. So, you have guys that have already been to U.S. or Canadian college, and so why are they going to go back to school? They're not. A lot are still, or perhaps on a two-way contract with the American Hockey League, and maybe have gotten a bonus or something and put them over the magic number. So you have guys that may already be ineligible.
Is the magic number is the magic number total compensation paid, like total, or is it per year? Like, so if you're let's say the number is 60,000, right? Let's say it is 60,000. If you're making 59,000 a year, can you play 3 years of pro and then go back, or is it total compensation paid?
That's the point. We don't know. There's no rule formulated, so we have no idea. There's been no rule formulated. There is no rule here, so we don't know right now. All we know is the door has been open, but there is no rule. So we don't know what the rules, it's actual rules. Because it's like, and another question, another thing we can ask is, will they have to sit time? We don't know, because also other court cases that come involved. There's a court case about junior college, right, and that stuff about how it impacts your eligibility. So that now is actually another thing that impacts this. Actual eligibility time. When does eligibility time the clock start moving? How does it move? The problem is, so much of this stuff is rooted in court cases and trying to avoid court cases. So we really don't know exactly what this rule is going to be. It's something that they just sat there and saw. It's sort of like the ASU thing. They saw, okay, we're doomed. We have to do something about this. So we're not going to sit there and fight it, because they know it'll be a losing battle. We already have the junior college, the other JUCO thing going on. That's a problem, and that's going to create an issue with them, and that's an issue. That you have the JUCO thing sitting there as a case, and you also have this. So
it's kind of crazy, like how quick this has come. Where it's like, a couple of years ago, it was like, oh, God forbid you make $40 a week playing major junior. Now we got pro players coming to play NCAA. It's like, wow, we changed on that one really quickly. But. Yeah, I mean, the other thing that I wonder about the whole compensation piece is who dictates what the price of school is going to be, right? So like if the NCAAs say, hey, and again, let's just say the number is 60,000, right? And the NCAA is like, hey, you made 65,000, you can't play. Like, what if the kid's like, oh, but I was going to be a doctor. Or I was going to go to school for 10 years. It's way more than, 60,000, right? Like what, like it'll be interesting to see how, like, if the compensation number is the variable, it'll be interesting to see what that definition actually looks like. Is it one definition for everybody, or does it depend where it's like, hey, you want to play that card? You want to say you're going to be in school for 10 years, or you say you're going to, you were going to be a doctor? Great. Start going down that road of pursuing a doctorate, right? Like, will it depend on what classes you actually enroll in? Like, there's so much that's, intriguing.
No, I think it'd be per annum, and it'd be something that probably be. I'm speculating, but like per annum, because first of all graduate school never counts for anything with NCAA. It's meaningless. It doesn't exist as far as they're concerned. So you'd be dealing with undergraduate school. You'd be talking probably, I would think, a year-to-year basis, and it would have to be one standard, because otherwise a state school could go out and sign a ton of guys, and a private school couldn't sign very many at all. So you have to have some standardized thing. What it'll be based on, nobody knows, because it's something that happened very fast. There's a case where, again, a player and an agent approached a team that was willing to take a chance and say, hey, we'll wing it. They sat and looked at the case about Israeli Super League. The basketball player had played there and said, this already has happened. And they're all, How is that really significantly different? Because Israeli Super League is a pro league in basketball. So why in the world would this be different? They sat there and took that, and they were correct. A precedent had been set. It's there, and now they just followed through on it. Now the rule will have to catch up. How they're going to limit it, what they're going to do. It has to be, because Israeli Super League obviously doesn't pay NBA salaries, but it does pay a compensation, and I don't know what their salaries are, but I'm sure, like most European leagues, it's not, they're certainly making a living there.
Has this changed in every sport yet? I mean, like, what about baseball? Like, can minor league baseball players now come back? Like, has this changed everywhere?
It just doesn't happen yet. You've had others had it happen in another sport, obviously in basketball. So, and there have been challenges, about it in other sports. But it's something that, again, remember, once one sport does it, it's going to be a chain reaction.
Right, but I'm no expert on college baseball or anything, but like even in baseball, like, aren't you ineligible for college once you are even drafted to the MLB?
Well, if you enter the draft, like for example, in the NHL, you're eligible for college, so you don't have to enter the draft. If you have to put your name in as an entry for it, that's what used to tell your eligibility.
Because that's kind of like weird on its own. Like, so MLB, you enter the draft, you can't play college, right? Even if you don't get drafted, right? Like, but then hockey, you get drafted. It's like no problem. We got all these draft picks playing in the NCAA. Like, what? Like, it's weird how it's different.
Well, it's different in this important respect. One was like an intent to sign. You said, all right, I intend to be drafted by Major League Baseball. I'm going pro officially is what you'd be saying. If like the NFL draft, I'm most familiar with the rules of NFL draft.
Okay.
The NFL draft, you have to enter. You have to consciously say, I'm entering the draft. Because no college baseball players have been drafted. My cousin was drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals and played Clemson. So it can be done in baseball. But football, you have to enter the NFL draft to declare yourself eligible. That suddenly destroys your eligibility. So you declare yourself a professional. I'm going pro. That's how the measuring stick.
Man, if only that worked in hockey where you could declare yourself. Imagine if you could declare yourself a tier 2 junior A player. Oh, life would be so much simpler for so many people. I declare. Well, I mean, hey, people declare that anyway. Just nobody really takes the declaration seriously. But man, if only declarations were just as serious in junior hockey as they are in the NFL and college football.
Well, it's just the NFL where they don't have to draft you. You don't have to be drafted by the NFL. Just because you declared. That's why you're very careful about declaring for the NFL draft. Because if you aren't drafted by the NFL,
yeah.
Well, you just hurt your college eligibility because it's tantamount to an intent to turn pro. It's like a letter of intent. It's as now that's going to change. I'm sure now. I think that's going to change probably. It's a matter that I'd imagine it will anyway. It just boils down to that it's difficult for you if athletes in one. It's always been maintained this way. If an athlete in one sport did something technically in other sports, that you can use that as a precedent in court and say, oh, but, and now of course they'll try a defense mechanism, but in the end, and remember there have been challenges to these rules for a long time. In hockey, there have been challenges. In football, there have been challenges, and since NCAA professionalism rules. But there's no right challenges, and NCAA also opened up some doors. The biggest door they opened was, now the transfer portal had nothing to do with this. It changed the face of college hockey and college sports. But what had everything to do with this stuff is nil. The minute nil was allowed, and nil was something again that down the line, you're going to have to allow that because in the end, you're not being paid technically by the school or whatever to be a pro player. How can you stop a kid from making money on this legally? It's always on very shallow, shaky ground. And it's just a question of time till no money was going to be available to athletes. Now, the minute you get to that, you get in that very difficult situation of professionalism because suddenly somebody is in, and the reality of it is it's always been shaky because you look at it, honestly, that college athletic scholarship is tantamount to a pro contract. There's, in fact, a case about a college football player a long time ago who wanted to not play football and focus on studies and wanted to maintain his athletic scholarship. And the court actually found that, no, this is an agreement to play football. You can't not play football and get your scholarship. So one can make a strong argument that isn't that professionalism. You're being paid via a thing of value, college education, to play football. It's you're basically you're not being paid money directly, but you're being paid this way. The problem you run into college, the thing in college sports or amateur sports in general, I always say the minute you charge your first dime to your first game, you're starting to move towards professionalism. And the minute you go past the first dime, past playing that game at cost, just to cover costs, you're well on the way to professionalism. Profit comes involved. You're suddenly going to want to have a winner. You're suddenly going to have a top team, make it more profitable. And professionalism is inevitable. We see it in every sport. You've seen it in the Olympics. You've seen it in European sports like rugby and cricket. That all went professional down the line. It all happened. The Olympics, like I say, the biggest of them all went pro. And it's something that's inevitable. You think about all the ways you can stick handle through amateurism. In the Olympics, the Russians had hockey players assigned to be in the Army. Well, that was their assignment in the Army, play hockey. So how does that make you not a professional? You had for years, you'd have in rugby, you've had guys hired in quotes as salesmen. That was their job to sell things. They played rugby for a company-sponsored team. So how are you not a professional? You sit there and stick handle through things a little bit to say I'm not a professional, but in the end, you're just dancing closer and closer to fire, and eventually you're to catch fire.
Yeah, it's such a gray area because, like, it's kind of like, all right, yeah, like you're receiving something of value, but if you can't live off of that value, does it really deem you as a professional? Like, so I guess it really, it's just such a gray area. And I guess, exactly what you're saying, like you're dancing in that and kind of moving towards it. Yeah, it very, 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 very interesting. And everybody, let us know what you think. Like, hop into Discord. Let us know what your thoughts are on this topic. It's very, very interesting. And there's a lot that is probably still yet to come out about this. And as it's evolving and as everybody's going through the process, we'll probably start to see more and more light being shed and, maybe certain bridges where it's like, oh, we didn't know we had to cross this. Like, well, how's this going to be handled? And I mean, honestly, I think it's going to get to the point where all bets are off. I mean, at a certain point, I think I kind of don't think it can be contained. I think that compensation benchmark one day will probably go right out the window. I think sooner or later we will see an NHL player playing NCAA D1. I don't really think I don't think anybody's shown any type of containment of this whatsoever. And to the point where it might just be easier to just say, hey, anything goes. Can we move on to the next thing?
Yeah. What has to happen is, and the only way it's to be contained is by just finally saying, fine, we're professional. Start having a contract system, have out of salary cap, start paying players openly. Say you're an employee of the university. You can, like any other university employee, you can take courses if you want here. But you have to at some point, because look at how many substandard guys play college football and basketball as far as academics go. These guys really are not academic in the least. In hockey, some guys too, you'd say, are that way too. They're not very academic.
It's time for the Season Pass Point Unlock code for Episode 20. The Episode 20 Point Unlock code is GOALS. Enter the code at www.swanhockey.io to receive your points. Season Pass is free to join. To join or to learn more, visit Swan Hockey Digital at www.swanhockey.io. And now, back to the show.
And in the end, we've had a big facade about a lot of things, and you really look at it look at some of these courses some guys take. They're athletic courses that are really a joke. They're just set up to have a football player or basketball player in the school, legitimately matriculating him as a student. So the thing is, in the end, I think what's going to have to happen is just going to openly say, okay, we're going to pay players. And the only way to get it under control is think about professional sports. We operate like college sports, where each year you could go and change teams and there are no salary cap. We'd have anarchy. There'd be something that would be ridiculous. It'd be anarchy. And we'd probably drive ourselves bankrupt. So the reality of it is for the good of the product, the good of the player, the good of the sport, the only real answer is some order. And how else do you bring order without a contract system and a cap with it? Right now, a nil cap. I discussed nil cap with some guys at one point. And the only problem I have with nil cap is how do you enforce it? Because it's not the colleges actually paying the nil money. It's other people paying name, image, likeness and going that way. So in the end, unless you have it directly going through the school, and of course they can fill the nil money through the school, but you've got to have control of that. And how do you have control over it without a contract? If a guy is just coming for 1 year, okay, I'm here now, I'm going to leave next year maybe. How do you have control over this? It's something that the best way to call it is it's unrestricted free agency with no salary cap. And you think about what that would do. We've never had that in professional sports. We've never had unrestricted free agency and no salary cap. And it's something that
there's got to be some
madhouse.
some order. All this in general, do you think it's good for college hockey or bad for college hockey? Just everything, the nil, the no more amateur status, the portal. Like, do you think this has all been for the better or for the worse, or yet to be determined?
I think you have to be pragmatic about it, because if you want to talk about a purist aspect, you want to talk about purism. Look, we should still have an amateur Olympics. We should still have young non-pros going. But the reality of it is the revenue and whatnot are just too much. It's such a big event. You want the best athletes in the world there. So you open up to the pros. Well, from a quality standpoint, that's very true. If you want to have college sports be the highest caliber and be the caliber they are, you can't expect possibly to go back to the 1890s where you go to school, you try out for the team, you make it, and you do it in your extra time when you're not studying. You're never going back to that. Those days are long gone. And we do have something like that in the lower divisions. Yeah, if you want to talk about that, there Ivy Leagues, not really completely, but closer to it. But outside of those, in those other leagues, it's impossible to go back. So you want the best competition. Well, what do? You've got to handle it in a way that's going to be amenable to the best competition. I think you also have to look at it that, from a standpoint, it's something I sort of advocated a long time ago, that maybe in the NHL, we do need something as a halfway house between amateur sports and pro sports for some of these guys, that it's not quite amateur, not quite pro, another level of development, because we really don't have that. We really don't have that developmental system that's really built purely for young players, and purely, not like the ECHL where it's an economic model, but a place where you can just send guys to play that need that little link in their development. It's something that
What do you mean though?
Well, college sports are sort of like that. I once time said,
you're saying that college is the solution. You're not saying that we need another level. You're saying college is that level.
Exactly. The NCAA is becoming that level, that you have that kid, you could just doom him and say, you got to go play in the ECHL. Well, the kid could be an American League player. You give him another year or two, but he might become prisoner in the ECHL if you send him right now. He's not quite ready for that.
Sure.
But you let him develop a couple more years, he may be that AHL player. And you give him that little added time, that 21, 22, 23 years old, without the pressure of having to make the National Hockey League or perform in the American League, or else. Let's face it, that's what you're on right now. You're in a situation of sink or swim. You make the NHL great. You make the AHL very good. You make the ECHL. You ever watch the old Honeymooners? Remember Ralph Cramden singing Norton?
I love that show. I love that show.
There you go. And the ECHL is tantamount to Ralph being to out. There's just one more coming. And so the point being is, do you want to put a kid in that situation? It's, you're better off having that situation where, no, it's not that. You're just developing a little bit longer, and you might get to the American League. I don't think you want to hurry them into it. I think 20 is a good age. 21 is a good age to send kids in that level. But, there are exceptions to that rule, I'm sure. But I think you have to, it's something that could be that link between professional and amateur hockey we've never really had. And it's something that works well for CHL players, well for pro players, and for college hockey, it'll be some good hockey. Now, some superstars you may not have, but you'll have a very nice level of hockey, and you'll have also, yeah. And as far as Division III goes, I don't think Division III should change. Division III should maintain a little bit of the old standards. To say, okay, you're here as a student.
A little bit of why it was built. I mean, it's my whole my feeling on it. Like the Olympics, I think is cool. Like, yeah, like let's get the best in the world. I mean, the college, like, you know, again, like how do I feel about all this? I don't know. Like I kind of feel like it's yet to be determined. Like, I think it's great that it could elevate the level of college sports. I mean, college sports are very exciting. Like, you know, obviously, right? Like, so like, I think that part is great, but I would like to see a little bit, you know, you want to see that genuine feel too, like where, you know, the key word, you know, student, right? Student athlete, where I think we're very much getting to the point, or already at the point, and, you know, to some extent we've already been at the point, you know, like where they're kind of just bringing in athletes and then figuring out like, okay, what do we got to do to call them a student? Like, you know, where it'd be nice to see, you know, more that actual school pride and, you know, the best team of students that the school could put out there. You know, like I really don't want to see college lose that. And I think it's been losing that for a long time. And I think that where we're at right now, you know, I don't think we've completely lost that yet, but I think we're in the danger zone. I think it very well, the train could fall off the tracks very quickly here, and we could lose that and lose it forever. You know, so those are my feelings on it.
Honestly, I think we do have that in Division III, and I think we do have that to a degree in the Ivies. Ivies you still have to have some competency as a student to get into Ivy League sports and play. You maybe don't have to be like, well, what I mean by that is this.
I know what you mean.
I mean, you don't necessarily have to be like other students. You don't have to be quite that high. You still have to be an outstanding student. Still have to go to class, and a lot of those guys go on to big academic things. So there is a real academic basis to it. And Division III is certainly like NESCAC. Absolutely, you're student athletes. But Division I, I got to be honest, I think college football and basketball, and if you really look at it, a lot of hockey, it never has really been that. And it's something that, you know, we're finally just coming out and acknowledging that. Because I've known guys that went to play college hockey from way back then. They're dumb as doornails. And, you know,
well, I think we're acknowledging it, but I think we're also taking it to a whole new level. I think we skipped over acknowledge. You know, it's like, hey, it would have been cool if we acknowledged it, but hey, we acknowledged it and we just like blew it to a whole different level. It's like, hey, watch this.
We might as well just come out and say it and do it, because it's something that, again, is so hypocritical. You look at us, you look at college football and basketball. They've been pro sports for decades. Let's be honest about it. People want to admit it or not. They've been basically.
I don't know, but baseball, and I don't know. Oh no, you didn't mention baseball. You said football and basketball, right? Because baseball, I was going to say they're still using those metal bats, right? No. I mean, there is no aluminum bats.
I'm talking football.
Yeah, no, and I'm just joking around. I joke around about baseball and with the aluminum bats in college, like that blows my mind that they're sitting there, you know, MLB wooden bats and everything, and then, you know, you got people hitting line drives in college with aluminum bats, balls coming off hot, like.
You sit there and examine it. That really, in the end, as I say, you know. There are teams in professional football and professional basketball. They're in effect farm teams for the pros. Look at University of Miami. Is that an academic football team? No, it is an NFL farm team. It's a developmental club for the National Football League is what it is. Not everybody's going to make it, granted, but everybody there, for all intents and purposes, are sort of buttressing the guys who are NFL prospects, who there always are a ridiculous number of. You know, I have a hard time sitting there and saying there's anything whatsoever, any academic virtue whatsoever to that team. And I'm not just going to pick out Miami. You could pick a lot of Division I teams. And in the end, you have guys that have been exposed. You know, there's one case about a kid at University of Minnesota that went there to play basketball, all right? Now, the kid actually took him to court because he was taking remedial courses with junior high kids for reading. He was illiterate for all intents and purposes. He's taken courses with young kids. And he took him to court. Now, what the court did find is there is no grounds for academic malpractice. Even though it basically was, for so many words, they said it was academic malpractice. But there's no grounds for a lawsuit about academic malpractice. So, and he's not the only kid that was like that. Kids that really are functional illiterates, kids that just are not up to any sort of academic standard, cannot handle the academics that are there. And it's something that's been that way for a long time. It's not something that started anything new. It started the minute you could go into Yankee Stadium and draw 70,000 people to watch a college football game, which they did in the old days, play college football games. They still play one a year there, but you'd rent stadiums like that. You'd get those stadiums filled. You'd have a big payday. And ever since that happened, you'll find more amateurs in a crap game. It boils down to that. You're getting to the point where there's just too much money involved. That you ever watch an old movie of John Wayne, Trouble Along the Way, and it was something that was as a statement made back in the 1940s about this guy that went to coach he was ex-big time college football player that goes to coach a small Catholic school that wants to make a lot of money for the school. And what does he do? The minute he goes in there, he starts cheating, bringing in guys that played some pro games, guys that have no academics whatsoever, doctoring records, et cetera, et cetera. And, it didn't come out of a vacuum. It was something that was obviously something back in the 1940s was an issue. So you're seeing, the fact of the matter is, 1940s, 1950s, Donna Reed was in it with them. But the point is, these are not new issues. The minute big money has gotten involved, those were hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now it's billions of dollars. There's no going back. It's a big business, and it's gotten to the point where it's just too big. And a lot of the arguments have been made over the years in court. They've been right. There are a lot of arbitrary and very hypocritical decisions, like, for example, major junior hockey. Major junior hockey players, $70 a year. You play with some guys at pro contracts, yes. But you could play on the U.S. Olympic team, the U.S. national team.
What was $70 a year?
Well, $70 and $70 a week. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. That's what I thought you meant. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. $70 a week. Major junior hockey player gets $70 a week. And on the other hand, U.S. Olympians got $25,000 stipends. And you add on, you had an issue where you have guys playing the world championships and in the Olympics with guys that are later on Olympics, but as of 1976, remember, players are allowed to play in the worlds, that were professionals. It was open to the pros. And they still had college players playing on the U.S. team. They'd play with guys on that U.S. team. They didn't lose their eligibility. So you're splitting hairs here on what is an amateur, and then they'd say it has as long as it's not anything that's only exhibitions. Well, here's a problem: are the Olympics or the World Championships an exhibition? No, they're not. Are you being paid for them? Yes, you are. They played games in the Central Hockey League in 1980 for the warm-ups at the Olympics, the old Central League, NHL Farm League. Canadian and U.S. teams did. That counted in the standings. So you're telling me that that's an exhibition when it counts in the league standings. So you have all these hypocritical hair splittings of who's an amateur. Well, we want him to be an amateur, so he's an amateur. We don't want him to be an amateur, so he's not an amateur. There was a kid a number of years ago, a buddy of mine brought up something a number of years ago, a kid that played in France, that was playing the NCAA, played for a pro team in France. It says on the website, we're a pro team, but he had eligibility to play. I knew a couple of players that played junior here they're French, that played in the French pro league. They're eligible for college hockey. So you're telling me a major junior kid who makes less than this is ineligible? There's a hypocritical problem there. It's a double standard of the standard.
It's crazy. There's so much wrong with it, or questions about it, like nuts. I mean, the last thing I want to touch on here is, do you think we'll see, and I think we will, do you think we'll see a point in time where it starts becoming a strategic maneuver where maybe kids on the fence, maybe a team's on the fence or whatever, and you got that team in the American League or the ECHL that's telling the player, hey, come here. If you don't like it, if it doesn't work out, then you go to school. But hey, don't go major junior to school. Go major junior, come here with us, and if it doesn't work out for whatever reason on our end or your end, cool, go to school.
It may happen, although
I think we'll see it. I think we'll see it. I mean,
there's one hitch is that, remember, as long as you're playing college hockey, you don't have to count against a team's reserve list for pro players. All right, only on the reserve list of what you own. So if you turn them pro, it suddenly is going to change the rules on signing too. Remember, free agency and whatnot. There's a lot of things, a collective bargaining agreement that you have to look at. How many contracts?
The CBA is up this year, right? They're going to rewrite that whole thing, or not the whole thing, maybe, but there could very well be some changes heading into the 26-27 season. Right.
Remember, the players want more free agencies that they're going to want. They're not going to expand protected lists. If they had their way, protected lists would be.
No, I'm saying, but the CBA. This is the last year on the current CBA.
Yeah, exactly, right. But it'll get done. It's not so that's going to be an issue. There'll be some adjustments on it. But I think in the end, the adjustment here, I don't see an adjustment that. I don't think pro teams necessarily going to want this overly, because you're having a player leave your jurisdiction, potentially moving towards free agency. I remember who these guys are. In all honesty, truthfully, these are guys teams don't care about. These aren't going to be the high prospects. These are lower end prospects. Guys are probably get rid of in a couple of years anyway.
Right.
It's not guys that are really going to sit there and get obsessive over. They're high.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about like the high second round draft pick. I'm talking about the NHL free agent. Like, do you think we'll see that team? And I think we will. But do you think we'll see that team in the ECHL that's like, hey, buddy, come here. If you don't like it, then go to school. And I think we'll see some players want to do that too. I think we'll see some players that are like, hey, you know what? I'm coming out of the CHL. I'm young. I want to take my shot at pro while I'm young. I want to take it now. And if it doesn't go well, or if I jump the gun, if I went too young or whatever, no biggie. I'll go back to school. I think we'll start to see players use that option as well.
A few may, but on the other hand, keep in mind two things. Number one, the minute you go to the ECHL and fail, you can write off a lot of your value, write off your career, quite possibly. You don't want to be perceived of going to the ECHL and failing. That's something.
Well, you don't want to go anywhere. You don't want to go anywhere and fail.
No, well, the bottom line is, if you float in the National Hockey League, you go to the American Hockey League. Not the worst thing on earth. AHL, you go down to the ECHL. Well. But you don't want to get stuck in the ECHL. Starting out there is not necessarily a place that you. And the other thing is, remember, college hockey is a lot more glamour than the ECHL. In reality, there's a lot more glamour. There's a lot more glitz to it. I mean, who you're playing with in college hockey? Well, you can come and play with Gavin McKenna at Penn State. Yeah, go play with, what was the guy, Gavin McLeod from Love Boat, in the ECHL. There's a slight difference between the two. In terms of glitz, you get to be a Nittany Lion and from a big crowd, or you get to ride the bus between two towns or small minor league towns, and sometimes play in front of 1,000 to 2,000 not very enthusiastic fans. It's not the same thing, and you're an NCAA.
I don't think we're going to see it be the preferred. The preferred path, but I do think we'll see players utilize the path, and I do think we'll see teams utilize that as a recruiting tool when they're trying to get that player to commit to them, and they're maybe now competing against that Division I NCAA team. I think we'll see people pull that out as a recruiting tool.
You can see them try, but I have the feeling if a kid is choice between BU and them, he's going to laugh at them. Simply put, he's going to go to the better program. And I think in the end,
I think we'll see teams pull it out. Like, I think we will see that as a tactic now.
Anybody will try. You can try anything. Look, you can try to tell a guy to play in the ECHL instead of the NHL. Gee, you're not happy your team is drafted by. Why don't you come play here for a year and see if you can get a free agent situation out of college? You can try anything you want. But on the other hand, do I see a lot of guys doing it? I have my doubts. And do I see, teams really focusing on that? Not really, because there are far too many hockey players out there. You don't have to do that. You don't really have to do that. And do you really want to bring a guy in that's that insecure? If he's a good player, no. If he's a stiff, sure, it's fine. Bring him in, fight for minimum wage. If he wants to go back to the quarry afterwards, who cares? On the other hand, if he's your top player, you want him to stay around. And remember, NHL teams have some control. Because the ECHL, if you have a working agreement, you have to take X number of players. As painful as it may be for you, because a lot of those guys are not the best citizens in the world to have come down, but you have to do it. And so and
I never knew since before, like when I started work, when I was working in the ECHL, that's when I knew that those contracted players were a set amount. I didn't know that before I started working in the ECHL. Yeah. When I found out that like our NHL affiliate agreement, it was like, hey, you know, ours was 6. We had to take 6 players. I didn't know that those contracts were done to the T of how many, you know, of how many players there were. So that was one thing that I, kind of, on the job training there for me that I learned. I was like, oh wow, I never knew that it was, that there was, and again, maybe every organization's a little bit different. Maybe they leave it a little looser, like, hey, a minimum and a maximum or something. But like for us, we had it was 6.
And you have to understand, you're going to play those players. You're going to play those players, whether you like it or not. They're going to play. They're not coming down to ride the bench. You're going to play.
Yeah. They want those guys developed. There's no way around it.
The only club I ever worked with that didn't care about that were the Boston Bruins, who Harry Simmons said that gravelly voice is, if you can't play for your team, you can't play for my team, so I don't give a damn.
That's funny, but.
And if your guy is better than my guy, I'm going to take him up to me. And he was good about that as a right way for an NHL team to behave. But so the point being is, you're in a scenario where, it could happen, but I just think the impact of this will be far less than the CHL impact. You'll get a few players here and there as an interesting option for players.
Oh, 100% it's going to be, I agree 100%. It'll be less, much less, not even comparable to the CHL impact.
It's a nice option for guys to have. Some won't take it. But I just think it's be a very unique guy. It might be a new toy thing, like you say, or it might be something people learn to manipulate better in time, but it's something that the impact of it, I think, is more, in a lot of ways, impact about a statement of what it says and where we're at right now than actual numbers and actual quality and caliber and how many guys are at. So I think it does say where we're at, that we're getting to a point that where something has to seriously be done to get all this under control.
Yeah, I agree. I agree there that I agree there. It's got to be controlled. But yeah, hey, it's been interesting. We'll see how this all unravels. Everybody out there, again, let us know what you think in the Discord. Weigh in on this. We want to hear from you. This is the first episode after unveiling the new streaming rewards for Swan Hockey Digital. So we've always done it with proof of attendance token codes, and we're still going to do those codes here for, I don't know, another few episodes, but we have a whole new way of doing this, a much better way of doing this, and you guys can check that out. It will be, if it's not posted on the swanhockey.io website already, it will be shortly. You can also join in the Discord. You can hit up the Web3 support for any help with season pass and your points and your rewards and that stuff. And right now we have another channel that was just added. It'll be up there. I'm not sure how long it's going to be up there, but it's up there right now for the time being, called Streaming Rewards, where we're helping you guys all with this new way of streaming. And some really cool things. We actually just had the meeting in the Discord not too long ago, right before we started recording this episode. And talked about all the really cool things going on with Swan Hockey Digital, and really cool things going on. So, this is the first episode after unveiling the new streaming rewards. And, Bill, thank you very much for doing this. Always a pleasure. I appreciate it as always. And that's gonna be an episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Swan Hockey Podcast. We remind you that season pass points are available to listeners. For more information, please visit www.swanhockey.io. Until next time.